Hey everybody, Andy Moore, the Executive Director of Let's Fix This. Thanks for joining me. It is 5:02 p.m. on, what's today? Thursday, May 7th. It is my daughter's 3-month birthday. How exciting is that? I know a lot of you were paying attention today to the legislature or watching online or following on Twitter or any of those things. This has been a big week, I think, for democracy in Oklahoma, so we wanted to provide a brief update, just a couple of minutes, to kind of let you know what has happened. So on Monday, to recap, on Monday the state Supreme Court ruled that indeed the way the law was written was that the notary requirement that we've all grown accustomed to with our absentee ballots was not actually in the law, or the law cited the wrong piece of statute. Anyway, turns out for the last 18 years, we arguably did not need a notary to notarize our absentee ballots. So they said, henceforth, don't need a notary, and they instructed the election board to not require that and to change the language in the instructions so that you don't need a notary to do your ballot, which is great news in the world when we've got a global pandemic for an infectious disease and it's invisible and we can't see it and we don't know who's infected and who's not. That's a big deal. And then the next day, on Tuesday afternoon, a bill was amended to include language to basically fix the glitch, right, or undo that, and to replace and to ensure that there is a notary requirement. The legislature kind of went through a few bills. They inserted the language into bills that weren't actually eligible to be heard in the time frame they wanted to hear them, which was immediately. So on Wednesday, the House passed a bill. It ended up being Senate Bill 210, and it passed on pretty much party lines. There were a couple of Republicans that split to vote with the Democrats in opposition to the bill, but basically what happened was they debated it. Lots of really good things pointed out, I think, on both sides. It does seem a little funny in the whole of debate that everyone on both sides of the aisle affirms that the Oklahoma Election Board is great. They do really good work. We have really safe and secure elections. However, all that being said, a lot of folks really seem to believe that there is rampant voter fraud out there, or fraud just waiting to happen. And lots of citations about unemployment fraud that's going on, which obviously has like a financial impact. So anyway, all that aside, the bill passed yesterday afternoon after a long debate. Went to the Senate today. First thing this morning, the Senate came in, and it wasn't the first bill they had, but it was, I think, the last this morning. They went through that. Again, lots of debate on both sides, lots of good questions, and the bill passed. And so now it goes to the governor for signature. What the bill does, right? So this is, again, Senate Bill 210, and you can find it online. I'll try to link to it in the comments here as well. But the crux of it is that should the governor sign it, which hasn't yet happened, but if it does, it will be in effect immediately because they added an emergency clause. And basically it means that absentee ballots do need to be notarized. So prepare for that. However, if there's a health emergency related to the COVID-19 coronavirus situation, which is the case right now, instead of having your bill notarized or your ballot notarized, you could make a copy of your state ID or your voter ID card and mail that in with your absentee ballot. So in some ways that's as complicated, if not more complicated, than having to find a notary and deal with potential exposures there, unless there's some kind of, I don't think you can, Lysol a copier, but I don't know. Maybe someone from Xerox can chime in. I don't have a copier or a printer here at my house, so I got to figure out how to vote absentee. According to David Glover online, he said he spoke to the Oklahoma County Election Board. I don't know about the other 76 counties, but he said in Oklahoma County, they told him that if you couldn't leave your house or didn't want to due to COVID-19, that you could register absentee and cite physically incapacitated as a reason to not go to the ballots and to request an absentee ballot, and you wouldn't have to do either one of those things. So that's a potential workaround. I haven't seen anything official from them yet, but David talks to them all the time. So another option is to, regardless of where you live in the state, is to call your county election board and request another copy of your voter ID card, and they would mail it to you. And in fact, Pro Tem Greg Treat suggested this during his debate today, that you could, or during the questions, I think, that you could contact your county election board and they'll mail you another copy of it, and then you just take that new copy and mail it back with your ballot. Or if it doesn't arrive in time, which would be my concern, right? Like, I don't want to hinge on all that, but if you've got a copy of your voter ID card, you can mail that copy in with your ballot and just wait for the new copy to arrive. In which case, you don't have to leave your house at all. Now, the U.S. Postal Service has said that they will still deliver ballots even if there's not postage on there. So if you're like many Americans, you don't happen to have a stamp around the house, you should still be able to put your ballot in the mail and it should get delivered. In Oklahoma, one good thing you can do, and I try to plug this all the time, our election board has a really great website. They've added this OK Voter tool. So if you go to ok.gov/elections, in there you find the online voter tool, or the online voter portal, I think it is. And to sign in, you'll have to have your name, your address, your date of birth, the last four of your social, and like your driver's license number. I think I had to enter both that and the last four of my social to log in to request my absentee ballot. So they know who I am and they know who's requesting it. And I think every ballot has a barcode on it. And so you can track, like, if they've sent you a ballot, if you've returned it, it'll track if they received it. So it's like a two-way deal, which I always do. If I mail back my ballot, I want to know that they got it and it was counted. So that's really handy. Which begs to reason, then, that there are already security measures in place that arguably make the notary and all that stuff kind of a moot point, right? Like, there are ways that the election board can monitor and secure our elections that don't require you to go find a notary or go pay to have a copy made at Staples. That was not in this bill. And they said that in the debate. Well, that's not in the bill. They didn't say why it wasn't in the bill. Presumably they could come back tomorrow and do something that is less restrictive if they wanted to. So, nevertheless, that's how it works. Look, a question. Thanks to question from Greg Newby. If you mail your actual voter ID card with your ballot, are they obligated to mail it back? Greg, I'm going to say no, because they'll provide you a new copy, right? So just ask for another copy would be the easiest way. There was some speculation, and I kind of joked about this on Twitter today, that the way the law is written is it says a photocopy of your ID. And so to my mind, like, what if you mail in your actual voter ID card, that's not a photocopy, that's the original copy. Now, I'm sure they will still count it, just splitting hairs there, that when people try to get real particular about it, I was trying to be particular back. I'm confident, though, that they will accept it if you mail in your voter ID card, particularly since Pro Tem Treat said it during the debate. But good question, Greg. I wish you could just print off voter ID cards. I get why you can't, but there's that. Okay, so the next step is this bill goes to the governor for him to sign. He has not indicated whether he would or would not sign it. He said he had to talk to legislative leaders. You know, they haven't been getting along real well lately. So I suspect he'll sign it. Although, if you care about this and you hope that he won't, I encourage you to call the governor's office and let him know, right? Like, that's part of being a citizen. That's part of doing advocacy. It doesn't hurt anything to call. There's a chance, right, that he could say no just because he wants to, like, stick it to him and try to help, fuel the fire between him and the legislature. But I don't expect that'll happen. My dog wants in. It is 5 o'clock. It's time for the dogs to eat. So that's the only update I have on this. The other bill I'll just throw out there for you guys to keep an eye on is House Joint Resolution 1027. It's been assigned to the Senate Rules Committee. We don't know if or when it'll be heard. But it's the bill that would change how signatures are gathered for initiative petitions. So this affects everybody, and it's, as I've said previously, it's panned by people on both sides of the aisle. I read a number of like conservative blogs, like Oklahoma-based conservative blogs, and they were opposed to it as well. We've seen, letters of the editor or op-eds in the paper against it as well. So they may not hear it at all. Who knows? I think what's happened, the timeline, right, is that we started the session, then we had the COVID crisis, and that has not ended yet. Hopefully we're over the hump, but it's going to be a long road back. And I say that as someone who ran an infectious disease clinic for 10 years. This is not totally out of my wheelhouse. I'm not a physician, but I have some familiarity with the topic. Oh, thanks, April, and on Facebook. I'm going to put that comment up there. There's the direct link to the voter portal. So it's going to be a long path back from this COVID-19 crisis. And so the legislature basically recessed for a while. And now they're back in. And while they said back then, like, these are extraordinary times, we're taking extraordinary measures and all this, and they were only going to focus on bills that related to the budget or healthcare or like key priorities, that seems to not be the case anymore. And so there's a number of bills they've been moving direct to calendar. They've trying to suspend the rules and get things done quickly. And in my experience, I don't care how you fall partisan-wise, when government starts moving super quickly and they're doing things that they said they weren't going to do and they're doing it when the public can't be really involved, that's a bad deal. It almost never works out well for democracy. So stay tuned. You can watch everything on the legislature's website. All their live streams are on there. It's oklegislature.gov, okhouse.gov, oksenate.gov if you want to go directly. They're in session usually Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of most weeks. They won't be there forever. They have to sine die by the end of the month. Sounds like they got a budget deal. I think both chambers passed the budget today, so that goes to the governor as well, and we'll see if he signs it. The legislature has signaled to the governor, hey man, like, come at me, bro. We've got a veto-proof majority, and that's the other thing that's a little concerning. You know, it happens to be Republicans right now, but it hasn't always been that way. And I'd say it was concerning if it was Democrats too, because I'm skeptical of both parties. Whenever any group says, we can do whatever we want and you can try to veto it, but we've got enough votes to override it, that they don't need any, votes from the minority. They can just get it through. That's a little concerning, right? Because then that means that one group of folks could push through things that are in their best interests, not necessarily the best interest of the public, or even of most voters, or even of other people in the government. So I recommend, as I always do, that we all keep a close eye on what's happening at the legislature. I believe, in my heart of hearts, that they have the best interests of the state in mind, and they will certainly say so. But it's often like a trust and verify kind of thing. So hats off to all of our public servants in the legislature, all their staff, and everyone else who's got to go up there and risk exposure, right? I mean, we've seen it in other states where legislators, and staff have come down with the COVID-19 virus, and I worry in a couple of weeks that we may see some of that as well. People were trying to share microphones today and take off their mask. It was all kind of a mess. Also, signs on the building that says everyone must wear a mask. And then clearly on the live stream, not everyone's wearing a mask. So just the kind of irony of that. Genuinely hope no one else gets sick, and hope that it all works out well up there. Special thanks to our frontline workers, healthcare, delivery, grocery store. There are a lot of folks that keep our society going that we have not even thought about, and we don't give them due credit. So hats off to all of them. All right, well, that's going to conclude my live stream for this evening. That was 3 times as long as I thought. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.